Hey everybody, it's Norm from Tested, and Happy New Year! Welcome to 2023. We got a lot of great stuff coming up this year on Tested. Now, to kick off the year, a little bit of housekeeping first. Adam's actually doing some traveling in January, so we'll be meeting with him later this month to do some filming. And most of the videos you'll be seeing over the next week or two are things we shot over the past weeks back toward the end of 2022. But while Adam is on the road, I'm going to start off the year with a laser cutter project at home. So John Tamkin over at Mission Models was gracious enough to send over a set of his model paints, his acrylic paints for airbrushing. And there are so many colors here. So this is 24 bottles here and that's just one box of many in the collection, the Mission Models collection. And so I want to design a system, a paint rack system that can have these easily accessible, can have them easily transportable between my home shop here and the Tested studio, and something that maybe is a remix of a design I did a while back, and this is my acrylic paint rack for Archive X paints, something that's maybe a little more wieldy than this, and just a refresh of that design. So I got my calipers here. We're going to grab a couple bottles. We're going to get the measurements of these bottles and sketch out a design before we head over to Illustrator and the laser cutter. Okay, so let's take a look at these bottles. The design is a little bit different than the Archive X bottles. For example, I think even the diameters are slightly different. Mission Models bottles are about 1.21 inches in diameter, while Archive X is a little bit narrower at 1.17. Now, it's not that big of an issue if I'm using the laser cutter, because I can just create different circles, different sizes, and create a different bracketing system for my existing design, but they're also different heights. And these caps are not interchangeable as well. So I need to design something that's going to work for this size bottle. All right, so let's grab a sheet of paper and start thinking about how I wanted to design a paint rack. So we have a standard bottle like so. I can have 3 bottles tall or something like that. And I think that's kind of what I want. So 1 bottle here. We're gonna need a 2nd bottle here, 3rd bottle, and how many bottles across. So top-down view would be something like, let's say 8 or 9 across. Again, I want this whole thing to be less than a foot. If I have 3 rows by 8, that's 24, perfect. That's how many were in the box, 24. And that will sit on a piece of acrylic. There'll be some piece of acrylic to hold it in place as well. And then these platforms maybe, I'll need some type of front barrier here, prevent them from spilling. And all of these get connected, frame at the end, like that. And the question becomes, what is the height difference? What is the elevation? And what is my total width gonna be? I wanna keep this to probably under 1 inch under 6 inches. I want this whole thing to be less than 8 inches or so. All right, let's head to Adobe Illustrator and figure this out. Okay, so after a bunch of time at the computer, staring at the computer screen, about an hour or two in Adobe Illustrator, and then about half an hour at the laser cutter, I have the pieces for an initial assembly. And this is one of those processes where, as much as I think I have a good design in my head, written down with all the problems I think I'm gonna need to solve with dimensions, none of it actually is final until it's on the computer screen, until I have a design in front of me, and until I've actually cut out the pieces and actually can see what these pieces and what this thing is going to look like and what the scale is going to be. And so many ideas and problems reveal themselves in this process that getting started really is the hardest part. And it's a lot of fun. So what I have is a design that's actually fairly simple. I have 3 rows of paint, 8 across. So I wanted to have 24 bottles of paint per rack. And I wanted it to be less than a foot wide. So perfectly fit with a little bit of buffer. And so just created some circles in Illustrator, spaced them out so it'd have something about 11, a little under 11 inches across. And then those became, I needed like 3 of these for my platforms. I knew the platforms would get sandwiched in some type of, as I drew here, some type of staggered shelving. And so I ended up with this as a design. You can see that basically I have the platforms get slotted here. There's a front piece of clear or frosted acrylic that protects it from the paint bottle from falling over. And then there's some backing as well. And a lot of the problem solving came down to what the spacing was going to be between the bottles. I didn't want this to be too wide and too unwieldy, too much empty space wasted. These racks shouldn't be that big, and what the staggering was going to be as well. So the bottles are about a little over 3 inches tall, and I didn't want 3 inches, 3 inches, 3 inches. So what was that overlap going to be so I could still see some paint, still see the logo, and again, not have this be too unwieldy. I ended up with something that's about a little 5.5 inches deep and is a little bit taller. And then as I was designing this, I realized that if I had a bottle here, here, and here, I'm going to grab a bottle to illustrate. So if I have a bottle here, here, and here, there's actually space for a bottle underneath here as well. It would be the back of the storage rack, and maybe not just for bottles, maybe some extra storage for brushes, for some thinner, but there was more storage that I didn't realize in the initial design that I could have. And so that was really fun to discover. Another thing that I wanted to end up putting on this was a handle. So I have these 2 bracketing pieces. They're going to be like so. And I'm going to have these shelves sandwich between them. So 1, 2, 3 with a 4th one hidden. And then I designed for the back of the tallest shelf, the backing should also have a little bit of a handle that I can attach as well. And my press fitting here isn't perfect. Something I've learned is if I have the tolerances too tight with acrylic, very easy to snap it. And so I'm just going to use some acrylic cement to bond all these pieces together. And I think I have everything I need. So I have these bracketing pieces, the shelves. I went with frosted acrylic for the front guards in front right here, and then some laser cut. These are little black frame pieces that then sit on top of each shelf to hold the bottles in place. And those can be elevated as well, a little bit of distance, so the bottles are nice and secure. So let's strike the paper here, grab all our pieces, and begin the assembly. All right, so here is the paint rack assembled. Let's get some paint bottles in here and see how it looks. And here we are. Pretty good. Something I'm noticing right away is this handle here, not very strong. I'm actually supporting it mostly on the bottom here. So I think I'm going to need to reinforce that and add a second piece of acrylic, which I do have a little bit of extra space here. I have this back cubby here, which I'm going to throw some extra supplies inside, paintbrushes or whatever. And I'm going to go make another one because that's what I need to do. It's a laser cut design. So I'm going to stare at this for a little bit, see what I think I can do to improve it, add an extra piece in the back here to reinforce this handle. But I think I'm pretty happy with it. Okay, before I go, I have one more thing. I ended up making 2 of these paint racks, and while I added a second piece of acrylic for that handle, still didn't feel like the handle felt as good as that Delrin dowel. So I ended up going back to Illustrator and putting together a caddy that can hold 2 of the paint racks using a foot-long Delrin dowel. And so now I have 24 plus 8 in the back, up to 64 bottles of paint that I can hold all at once. And these are removable, of course, so at the workbench, these will be on the table, but if I need to transport them, then I can have 2 of these paint racks in one large caddy. And pretty hefty, but also pretty secure. Really happy with this design. Really fun build, a great way to start off the year. And if you're interested, I can upload the vector files for these paint racks so you can make your own or remix them. Let me know in the comments the ideal place for me to upload them, and I'll get on that this weekend. But in the meantime, have a wonderful rest of your week and weekend. Have a wonderful beginning of 2023, and I will see you next time. Bye.